Good morning. Good to have everyone out for class this morning. Of course, this is a new experience for me as far as teaching this large of an auditorium. Over the years, I've been used to smaller buildings teaching classes, and so it's like from here to Brother Ken might be the back of the building, you know. So it's going to be a little bit different for me. First of all, appreciate the opportunity to be able to teach the class, and been looking forward to this. I do have a few issues myself. Of course, as I get older, my memory's not as good as it used to be, and it never was very good. So if I make a mistake in, saying something or need corrected, please help me out on that. And because especially in this Old Testament, there's a whole lot of names and stuff that I do have trouble with, and Brother Jesse does a great job in pronouncing all those names, and so we might have to call on him a time or two to help us out on that. Another problem is I'm hard of hearing, and it used to be what they call selective hearing. You know, I could handle that. When Kathy talked, if I didn't want to hear, I mean, you men know what I'm talking about. But it's no longer that. It's just I'm really hard of hearing, I guess, and I have to tell my grandchildren and Kathy too quite often, what'd you say, and speak up or whatever. So I really need you to kind of speak up a little bit, and I do want your comments. I appreciate all the comments. That's one thing I do appreciate about this congregation. I do appreciate the comments that everyone makes, and we do a great job in our discussions and make good points, and I'm thankful for that. A lot of people get involved, and so all of you get involved, and let's have a good discussion through the rest of this. So what I'm going to do is I don't have a expensive set of hearing aids, but I do use the AirPods, and this newer version AirPods kind of act as a hearing aid. So I'm going to try that this morning. And so I'm not listening to music or anything. I'm going to be listening, trying to listen to y'all. And so I'm going to put these in and see if that helps. And if it does, that's what I'll use in the class. If it don't, I'll take them out, and I may have to step down to listen to your comments. But just bear with me in all of that. So I'm going to go ahead and put these in. I have to adjust them here. Make sure they're right. Okay. Drew, can you say something softly? Sir. I got it. Yeah, see, I heard Drew. Yeah, he said, sir. Yeah, thank you. All right. So we are still in the divided kingdom, and going to take a look at that. But before we begin, let's have a word of prayer. All right, so as you see on the screen, again, you have to bear with me on this too, on the PowerPoint. We'll work together with this, but I don't use it very much in Bible classes, so just bear with me. But we're beginning this quarter on a study through God's Word. Of course, that's taken from the book that was prepared a good while back, and we're in 2 Kings chapter 11 through 17, and 2 Chronicles chapter 22 through 29. We're going to be looking at several prophets during this time. Some are called minor prophets, and I guess some are major prophets, but Joel, Jonah, Amos, Hosea, Isaiah, and Micah. And I believe Brother Norm, of course, we've already studied Obadiah with him, and I think our next lesson will be covering. But before we begin, as we've worked through in several classes, we're looking at the 17 time periods of the Bible. So let's take a look at that. We've got before the flood, the scattering of the people, the patriarchs, the Exodus, the little slow, the wandering in the wilderness, invasion and conquest of Canaan, the Judges, the United Kingdom, the divided kingdom, Judah alone, captivity, return from captivity, the years of silence, the life of Christ, the early church, and the letters to the Christians. And in this period, as we've already said, we're in number 10 there, the divided kingdom. And so this quarter, we'll be looking at the first lesson. We'll be looking at Athaliah and Joash. First of all, there may be some questions in the back. I didn't even check that. Does everybody have questions? Anyone need the questions? Okay. We need one copy over here. Norm? Okay. So we're taking a look at 2 Kings chapter 11 and 12 and 2 Chronicles 22 through 23. Of course, the book that they were using with the Waldron's book, Till There Was No Remedy. And some of you may have copies of that book, but we're looking at pages 71 through 79. And Norm was working and mentioned Athaliah in the last lesson, but we're going to take a little closer look at that with our first question. And so, let me go back. Oh, what I wanted to say, first of all, I do have a map or a diagram of the kings and prophets of the divided kingdom, Judah and Israel. And of course, I know you can't see this, but yeah, I've got one. Yeah, can y'all see the pointer? Yeah. Okay. Again, I know this is small, but it's good information for maybe someone who wants to use it, the next teacher or whatever. If you'd like to have a copy of that, we can get it. But it's got a lot of good information on it, and of course I found this on the web, and the web has been beneficial in this study, and ever since Mr. Google come along, he's been a really big help for all these studies. There's a lot of good research information out there. A lot of brethren have worked hard over the years to put things together, and not only brethren, but religious people throughout the world. And so sometimes I'll come across something that to me is helpful. And again, I know y'all can't see it back there, but what we have is a good diagram showing the United Kingdom with the kings, and then it's divided here between Israel and Judah. And this here shows the kings of Judah. There's also a section that shows the civil wars that took place during the time, gives you verses. And then along the middle here are the prophets and the time periods in which they were involved with in trying to persuade Israel or Judah to return to the Lord. And then we also have when the Babylonian captivity took place. Of course, we have here where the Assyrians took Israel. And then we have the 70 years of captivity here. And anyway, it's a lot of good information. But what I've done is I've kind of split the slides up. There we go. A little bit. And still, you may not be able to see that, but this is the same thing that we're looking at. And there's a good color scheme over here. The green, of course, is the prophets to Israel and the northern kingdom. And then the yellow is the prophets to Judah and the southern kingdom. The red is the prophets to the Syrians and the prophets to Edom. And here's Obadiah down here that Norm had talked about. We've already talked about Elijah and Elisha. And then we'll be talking about Joel next week, Lord willing. And then I just took an image of the Judah as well. But I'm gonna, what I want to try to do too is with these slides is to make sure that people in the back will be able to see them. But let's go ahead and can everyone see the text on this, some of the larger text? You can see it pretty good. That's great. All right. All right. All right, so let's just get into our questions. Question number 1, from lesson 12 of quarter 2, briefly review from Athaliah, how Athaliah came to be ruler of Judah. And so Norm has shown this slide and somewhat, but enlarged it just a little bit just to show who we've got, what we've got going on here. So what about that question? Who is this Athaliah, and how did she come to be ruler of Judah?
Well, she was the daughter of Ahab, and her son Ahaziah was king, and then he was killed. And when he was killed, she usurped the throne. She just took it over, and so that's how she became king.
Okay, so as was said, she is the daughter of Ahab, and again, this is Israel, and this is Judah, the kings of Israel and Judah. And of course, we studied about Ahab and Jezebel, and there was a joining in marriage of Athaliah to Jehoram, and then they had their son Ahaziah. So a lot of things that took place there. Also already mentioned, we have 2 Jehorams, and this would have been Athaliah's brother from the Israel. And then we also have Jehoram over here, the son of Jehoshaphat. So how did she affect this kingship of Ahaziah, and how was she related to him? And we talked about that already. Yes.
What makes her interesting from a point of focus is that we're interested in the Davidic line
Yeah.
down there, and you can see how thin the Davidic line gets because it goes through Jehoram and then Ahaziah, and she's going to be the queen of Judah. And so if what happened with what you're getting ready to talk about doesn't happen, Joash wouldn't have happened, and that would have ended the Davidic line right there. So
That's right. That's right. And so what he's pointing out again, and we'll talk about the Davidic promise a little bit later on, is if all of this hadn't took place, then this being the Davidic line to Jesus, then we would have realized that God's promises wouldn't come true. But certainly we'll talk a little bit more about that as well. So what's interesting about this too is, so the question is, so what relationships and influences and events in her life may have motivated her to take over the throne of Judah? And so we briefly discussed that just a little bit. So here you have Athaliah. She is the daughter of Ahab and Jezebel. So, yes.
I mean, she definitely inherited the ruthlessness of her mother and the wickedness of both her parents to be so evil and desire power so much to actually murder her grandchildren,
Yes.
in essence. So, there, like I said, her desire for power is stronger than any love she has for her family line or anything like
Yep.
that. So she wasn't trying to just wanting to wipe them all out just so she could assume power. As soon as she heard her own son had been killed.
Okay.
So,
All right. Yes, Norm?
yeah, and in essence,
You have what, Norm?
Yeah.
What did you say the first time?
In essence, had a foreign-born queen,
Yes,
non-Jew,
yes,
running the kingdom of Judah,
yes,
which is as far as you can get east from the west of what God wanted. This is
yes.
taking the whole kingship idea and warning that God gave in advance, taking it to the extreme.
yes. All right, so we talked about who would then specifically, has already been talked about some, but so you got Jezebel. She was, if I'm not mistaken, from the Sidons. Is that correct, Sidons? And that's up over on the coast there. And of course, those people worshiped Baal as well. And some of the information I read was that they actually sacrificed their own children. So all of that information and all of that influence is going to be passed on to Athaliah. She's going to be seeing all of that take place throughout her lifetime. And then we also have her relatives that were not living very well and would had a great influence on them as well. So her parents would have affected how she lived. And then, like I said, her sibling Jehoram, her brother, a king of Israel, may have had some influence as well. And what else did she witness during this time? It's already been mentioned, but what did she witness that was terrible during all this time? Yeah, Norm?
When Jehoram over on the left, when he took over, he took over as a result of murdering all of his brothers.
Yep.
And taking the crown through that. So she's gotten to see that, and of course Jezebel's obsession with destroying anything that was associated with God. From the priests to the idols, everything that was out there.
Yep. So, do you think about that, about this today? I mean, when you're raising up your children, they can see this, and you see the results of the influence that these siblings and parents had on Athaliah. And it was a very terrible influence. I mean, she saw all this murdering and conspiracies going on all the time. Yeah.
And also they're sending a trend there that Israel, the king of Israel here is marrying a foreign wife. Then it rolls over to Judah, the next generation, doing the same exact thing. And so you have this pattern now that's being set up. And once you make a mistake and that influence starts, it's hard to stop it.
Okay. All right. Then we had the marriage, of course, to Jehoram of Judah, which was the son of Jehoshaphat, and that was an arranged marriage. And of course, we know that God wouldn't be pleased with that because of the sins that were taking place with the Israel. Of course, they did it for political reasons, and certainly not to increase the service of Judah or Israel to God. It was merely because of political reasons. Any other comments on that? Yes, Norm.
Just once you understand the marriages, now the actions that the king took, it was always like, well, why is the king of Judah, aligning himself with, obviously bad people over on the Israel side? Well, now you can see the influence of the family down there in each of those generations was impacting all of the decisions that they were making on alliances, who they were going to spend their time with, and things like that, and who kids are gonna be spending time with whose kids, and on vacation, and all that kind of stuff, and the impact of it.
Yes. Are any other comments on question number 1? All right. Question number 2, how old was Joash when he became king of Judah? 7 years old. Yes, he was 7 when he became king, and thinking about that, of course, we've had some discussion about it too. He was quite young, but thinking about that, they're looking through the different kings of Judah and Israel. I believe he was the youngest person that had become king. There was one other one. There was 2 others that were just a little bit older than him. You remember who they might have been? Yeah, Josiah was, how old was Josiah? 8 or 9, and Manasseh, I think, was 12. So there was, somebody say something?
Yeah, we were oohing and ahhing.
Okay. Right, so, again, he was the youngest person to become king. And you think about that too. This is God's plan. God chose a 7-year-old person to become the king in line of the Davidic covenant, which I thought was amazing when you think about that. So we'll talk about some more of that a little bit later. So it says, identify the different people, the men and women that influenced Joash during the early childhood, and what lessons can we, you and I, learn from them. So who would have been people that would have had influence on Joash during this time? Yes.
Well, one would have been Jehoiada, the priest.
Right.
He had a lot of influence on Joash. And also, I thought about Jehosheba, or how you say her name, who saved his life, hid him in the temple for 7 years, until he was, for the 6 years that Athaliah was queen, until she was killed, and then he was crowned king.
Okay.
Which she would have been his aunt.
Yeah.
And married to the priest.
And
Well-
married to, she's Joash's aunt.
Yep.
And so she would have been Ahaziah's sister, so she saw all the kids being murdered and obviously saved him
Yeah.
and hid him.
Yeah.
But she's married to Jehoiada the
Yeah.
priest. So they're related to him and saved him and hid him, protected him, probably as long as they could. We'll get to it, but like no one mourned Athaliah's death. So her rule was probably not very great.
Yeah.
And I think that's probably when he finally took courage to show, the leaders what they had hidden Joash. It was time. We
Yeah.
needed to put him in place
Yeah.
to save the kingdom.
All right. Norm?
Yeah, well, it's interesting that the aunt and the uncle, basically, and the aunt being the daughter of these wicked, people all the way down the line, and yet their influence was different. They went in a different direction. I would have loved to seen the conversation that went on between Jehoshabeth to her mom. Oh, Mom, I'm going to marry a priest of the Lord. You wouldn't mind, would you? Instead of that Baal guy that you picked out for me.
Okay.
You can see there was going to be a real problem, in the discussion.
All right. So I try to think about, and of course, you see pictures and stuff, and we know that at this time the temple was in kind of a disarray, and we'll talk about that a little bit later on. But we have this temple here in Jerusalem, and we have all these ungodly people around, and Athaliah is there. And of course, she starts killing all of her grandchildren and whoever else is going to be in her way. And the priest's wife, probably steps up and says, we've got to do something. And I'm sure Jehoiada was involved as well in that decision. Because he was a priest, and so he was knew the temple. He knew everything about the temple. Yes.
Right, well, he's the one that made secret for the officers and the captains, and he called the Levites and all
Right.
them to secrecy in order to anoint.
Yeah. Yeah. Later on, after they take him as a baby into the temple, we'll see that in a future question. But so his wife, Jehoiada's wife, took upon herself to hide Joash. And you got to think about that too. There's killing, there's murdering going on. You got to think about these people and how faithful they were and how brave they were in doing what they did to carry on again the Davidic lineage. Yes.
Of course, the providence of God had a hand in all of this.
Yes, absolutely. We see the providential hand of God in all of this. And so I'm thinking about this temple, and he's there for 6 years, living in this temple. And so what you have then is you got Jehoiada and Jehoshaphat. They've got to go out and get food, and things have got to kind of be normal. I guess they're acting normal. He's doing his priestly duties, I guess, whatever he's allowed to do, and going back and forth. And through the providential hand of God, Joash is preserved through all of this. But there's another interesting person that was involved with this as well. Yes.
The nurse.
The nurse. The nurse. Does she look a little bit concerned there? Yeah. You think about the nurse. Think about the nurse. What does a nurse do? What did the nurses do during this time?
Acted like the mother.
Yeah. Acted like the mother. So, to what extent, think about that. Y'all have to help me out here, but I don't want to get on other questions. But what we have other examples possibly in the Bible. Yes, Norm.
The relationship going on here has a lot of similarities to Moses and his situation that God, through God's providence, set up, because you have the daughter of Pharaoh taking and saving Moses, and the nurse is his sister in this particular case, and his mother. And the same thing here, you have the daughter of the king is the one who is saving the one who has been chosen. And again, you have a faithful nurse that's involved in this. So there's a lot of God uses certain plans and ways of dealing with people over and over again because they work. And we see examples like this of that.
Okay. So what's interesting about this? I looked up this word, and as Norm mentioned, if you look over in Exodus chapter 2, over in Exodus chapter 2, of course, we know the story of Moses and what took place there, but verse 7 says, Then his sister said to Pharaoh's daughter, Shall I go and call a nurse for you from the Hebrew woman that she may nurse the child for you? So what do you think was going on here with this nurse?
I guess she was feeding the child or nursing.
Yes. I'm thinking that's what was taking place here. And another interesting note that was concerning this word. So this word nurse is used in a couple different places in the Bible. One, a nurse, it's used as, someone who cares for another person. And then in this case, it's actually a person that feeds or nurses a child, kind of like Moses' mom did. But Hastings Dictionary in the Bible says, healthy women among the Hebrews in ancient times were accustomed to suckle their own children. As in Palestine today, the child was suckled for a long time, sometimes as much as 3 years. And so you got to think about this. And we just had a mom and her baby come in. You're nursing a child for 3 years. What kind of relationship was going to be built there between this nurse and Joash? What? Yes, a very close relationship. And so not only was she nursing the child, but she would have also had, because of her bravery and what she was doing as well, would have had a great influence on Joash in the early part of his life, the first 6 years of his life. And she probably had a great deal of influence on him and teaching him. You have other examples in the Bible. You got Samuel. His mom raised him and weaned him until she gave him over to Eli, she had promised God. And then, of course, you've got the New Testament example of the influence that mothers and grandmothers have on a child. You got Timothy, and then you've got Josiah as well. His mom was mentioned, I'm sorry, in 2 Kings chapter 22 and verse 1, his mother was mentioned when he became king. All right, any other comments on that? So, again, I want you to imagine and picture yourself in this temple that's in disrepair because of all the things that are going on around him. And you have these three people that have influenced Joash to make good, godly decisions in the beginning of his life. So let's look at the next question. So reflecting on God's promise to David in 2 Samuel chapter 7 and other passages, how do we see God's providential hand working in the story of King Joash? We've talked about this some already, but is there any other comments that you'd like to make on that? Okay. So if you look at 2 Samuel chapter 7, let's take a look at that real quick. All right. In 2 Samuel chapter 7 and verse 12, it says, When your days are complete and you lie down with your fathers, I will raise up your descendant after you, who will come forth from you, and I will establish his kingdom. He shall build a house for my name, and I will establish his throne, the throne of his kingdom forever. I will be a father to him, and he will be a son to me. When he commits iniquity, I will correct him with the rod of man and strokes of the sons of men, but my loving kindness shall not depart from him, as I took it away from Saul, whom I removed from before you. Your house and your kingdom shall endure before me forever. Your throne shall be established forever. And so this is what took place here. So God's providential hand in saving Joash's life and setting him up as king to continue the Davidic line in covenant, that demonstrates that God is still in control. God still has all authority. He has all rule and power over the world. And we know that God is faithful because His promises are kept, and we know that His promises came true. And so it should really, how does that affect us today? Yes? Norm?
Benjamin Franklin is credited with this quote that if a sparrow cannot fall from the sky without God's notice, is it possible a nation could rise without his aid?
Yep.
That is 1700s, but I mean, it's the same today. God has been and is in control of the affairs of men.
All right.
And it was obvious to people who weren't even really Christians. Benjamin Franklin was not a Christian at all. But this information that he did know, because he was educated, and the Bible was something that you were educated in when you had an education in the 1700s. He understood these types of things as somebody on the outside looking in. And if a man like that can understand that, how much more should a Christian understand God's control in our affairs?
Okay. So, just like the faith of the priest and his wife and the nurse in taking care of Joash certainly should have increased our faith because of that. And even the apostles, it did take the apostles a while to get that Jesus was not going to be an earthly king. But remember, after the day of Pentecost, they knew and preached about it. And if you look over real quick in Acts chapter 13 and verse 22, someone read a couple. Let's look over there. Let me turn over there real quick. Acts chapter 22. I'm sorry, Acts chapter 13 and verse 22. On their first missionary journey, Paul and Barnabas were beginning to speak. In Antioch of Pisidia there. And he said, after he had removed him, he raised up David to be their king, concerning whom he also testified and said, I have found David the son of Jesse, a man after my heart, who will do all my will. And he goes on down there and explains how Jesus came to be. Verse 29, while they had carried out all that was written concerning him, they took him down from the cross and laid him in a tomb. But God raised him from the dead, and for many days he appeared to those who came to him from Galilee to Jerusalem, the very ones who are now his witnesses to the people. And we preach to you the good news of the promise made to the fathers. And so that's what we're living today. We're living this good news of the promise that God made to him. And so that should certainly increase and continue to increase our faith today. Any other comments on that? Yeah, Norm?
Just that you can't help but see this as a type of Christ as you go through here, because, I mean, as Satan kind of thought, oh, I won, there, Jesus is dead, and all the evil that led up to that, you can see that here. You can see he's at the point where the bad guys have won. Athaliah is now queen, the foreigner is now queen of God's kingdom, and yet underneath is Joash, and just ready to rise once the time is right. And it's just interesting how God moves in mysterious ways.
All right. Any other comments on that? All right, let's quickly throw out some contrasting comparisons between the life of Joash and Jesus. Anyone? Yes.
Both had to flee from wicked leaders.
What was that?
Both had to flee from wicked
Yes, they both had to flee from wicked leaders. All right, anything else that you see there?
I wasn't real, clear on some of this, exactly how it was a comparison, or whether it was or not. But, I saw that Joash reformed the temple treasury. In other words, he provided a box for them to, give money to the temple. And, Jesus cleansed the temple, threw out the money changers and so
Good.
on.
Yep,
So I thought that might be.
that's a good one, yeah.
Main thing I see through all this is God was watching over both.
Yes. Providential hand of God, yes.
You touched on it, like one was the continuation of this seed line promised to David in the physical form.
Yeah.
And saying, of course, Jesus is of that physical line too. But then Jesus is the fulfillment of that promise.
Yeah.
So Joash was in that line, he was a fulfillment of that seed promise. So through the providence was saved and hidden and then brought forth. And then, of course, you ultimately linked to Jesus, who's the fulfillment of that same.
Yeah, that's good. And as already mentioned, they had to flee, so, and so they had, they both had godly relatives, one the aunt and uncle and the nurse, and then the other his parents, but they both wanted to take care of their children, to preserve them. Of course, we understand, again, God's providential hand in all of this. And as mentioned, I think, but Jesus, of course, he was born in a humble family, and Joash was born in a royal family, although he didn't realize that for a little while. And but they both lived during a deadly time. Athaliah was murdering all the people around her, and who was murdering? Herod. Herod was murdering during the time. That's the reason they had to flee to Egypt. And so, again, Joash was crowned king, of course, of Judah. As already mentioned, Jesus was crowned king eternally. And so, a lot of good comparisons and contrasting there between their two lives. Any other ideas or comments on that? All right, so we're just fixing to wrap it up, so let's try to get into question 5 next week. We'll try to move along a little bit faster. Again, you're going to have to bear with me trying to work through all of this, but I appreciate all of your input and comments during this time.